So hello everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Iyad Yakubi. I'm a senior inside pre-sales engineer for Veeam, and today we will cover this webinar about deep recovery with Veeam Availability Suite. We will see different ways of restore. We will do some slides to understand what kind of restore we can do, and then we will switch to the lab to do some demo and the console directly. So let's begin. The cloud data management enables customers to achieve unparalleled data availability, mobility, visibility, automation, and governance across data center, at the edge and in the cloud. As modern IT organization looks to innovate faster, legacy backup and recovery infrastructure cannot support customer forward-looking initiatives. Customers today want more from their platform, and with the cloud data management capabilities, they can surpass legacy approach to data protection by providing the next step beyond the backup. We will start about the basic restore, which is the full VM restore. With the full VM restore, we have what we call instant VM recovery. The VM recovery starting directly from the backup file. In this process, we will not transfer the disks from the backup file from the backup storage to the production storage, then register the machine. What we'll do instead, we will start the machine directly from the compressed and deduplicated backup file from the repository. So what we will do, we will be based on our technology, which is called vPower NFS, which will present the backup storage volume to the ESXi or to the hypervisor as an NFS data store. So it could access the backup file in the format which is appropriate to the hypervisor, and after that we could migrate online our machine. So this is a very efficient feature which allow us to reduce our RTO and our RPO, especially RTO, because instead of restoring, for example, a 1 terabyte machine, let's say, for example, in 2 hours, we will just restore it in 2 minutes. Then we have the work mobility. The workload mobility, sorry, is like the way to be able to move your data. This is the availability of Veeam. Veeam allows you to back up your on-premise infrastructure, your cloud infrastructure, and then it allows you also to restore from on-premise to cloud and from cloud to on-premise. Here we can say that with Veeam, different solution, Veeam Backup for VMware, Hyper-V, HV, Veeam Agent for Linux, Windows, like for server and workstation, are able to back up directly to Azure and are specially able to restore directly to Azure and Amazon. The other way is also working. We have another software which is just launched, which is called Veeam Backup for Azure, Microsoft Azure. It's a native tool which allows us to make a backup, native backup for Azure instances, and then we could, with Veeam Backup Replication, restore these instances to the on-premise infrastructure with the reverse way of this one. Then we will cover also in the demo lab, like in the lab, the item level recovery. So we have the full VM recovery, so we can restore our machine. Then we can restore files from the machine, like Windows, Linux, OS. But then we have the item level recovery, which is going more deep. And this is made by what we call the Veeam Explorer. It's included in Veeam, and it starts with the Enterprise and Enterprise Plus edition, and it allows us to restore objects like for Oracle, Microsoft SharePoint, Microsoft Active Directory, Microsoft SQL Server, and Microsoft Exchange. This is possible to do from the backup file, but also it's possible to do this kind of restore, and also the instant recovery restore from storage snapshot. So if you have storage which is compatible with Veeam, so we could enhance the backup process with the storage snapshot, which is a backup based on storage snapshot. We will also enhance our restore capabilities like faster restore, longer retention, lower RTO with the storage snapshot. So here is the Explorer for Active Directory. Actually, it's like 2-3 clicks, like let's say 3 clicks, and you mount the backup file on the mount server, which is could be Veeam server, it could be different server. Then we explore the files, and we mount the database of the specific application, so we could access the items. So we could just restore one user, one GPO, one DNS record, or any object which is present in our backup, and then just restore this specific object instead of restoring the full database. This is also applicable for Exchange. For Exchange, you can restore calendar, you can restore an email, you can restore a contact, or you can restore it to the same Exchange server, or you can restore it to any other Exchange server. So it could be migrating to a different DAG, to a different Exchange server. You can export the object as PST or send it as message also. There is also this feature which is compare with production, as you see here. It allows us to compare the objects which are present in our infrastructure, an Exchange server, comparing to this point in time where we want to restore. We also cover the Microsoft SQL Server, like we could export schema, we could restore the database fully to the same server, like without having to restore the MDF file, the LDF file, then to mount them to the SQL server. This is done automatically by Veeam to the same server or to a different SQL server. Let's start with our demo. So I'm starting the lab. So here is the Veeam console. I hope everyone is able to see our screen share. So as we say, so this is the Veeam console. So here we have our backup jobs, our replication jobs, our backup replication jobs, and here we have the restore. So for today, the main point we need to dive in is the restore. So to begin, we have two ways of restoring. I'll show you the first one, which is the simple one. Like we have here different options. We can click on restore. Then we have different options, different source of data. So first of all, we have the VMware vSphere. We have the VMware vCloud Director, Hyper-V infrastructure, agents, which could be Linux or Windows. We could restore from tapes. We could restore from NAS, and we could also restore from to HV or to Amazon or AWS. Let's choose here a VMware vSphere. So when you click on it, you have two types of restore. You have restore from backup and also from replica, because Veeam is called Veeam Backup and Replication. So Veeam is doing the backup and the replication at the same time with the same license. So you could also restore files. Like let's start with the replication. So with the replication, you can usually what you can do is to restore, like to make a failover, to switch the machine. If your production machine is down, you just need to make it a failover and just to start this machine. But we went more far. So with Veeam, you can also use your replica machine to be able to restore a file, an application, or the entire machine from replica. So we will just go to the same option from backup, but just to know that it's possible also to do it from replica. So for the backup, we have the different options. We have what we call the entire VM restore, which is basically including the instant recovery feature, which we saw together with the slides. We have the entire VM restore, which is the traditional restore. It's like the basic restore where we just copy all the files like VMDK, VMX, and VRAM to the host. Then we register the VMX file. Then we could connect our machine and work. So which is like the traditional way with the instant recovery, we just start the machine from the VMX file, which is inside the backup file. Then we migrate it to production like the VMDK and so on. You could also restore VM files like VMX, NVRAM, VMDKs, or you could restore to Amazon or Azure. You can also restore volumes. You can restore just a simple volume with the same way. It's possible now with the new instant recovery feature, like we call it the agent 2.0. We could restore just a specific volume. So we don't need to restore the full machine. If you have a corrupted volume, we can just restore it while the machine is running. So it's instantly and it's hot added. We could also restore in the traditional way. We restore a disk, then we attach it after the full copy. We have the guest file, so for Linux, for Windows, and for application, as we saw together, we have the Explorer, which allow us to restore Active Directory, Exchange, SharePoint, SQL Server, and Oracle Server. And you can see also that other applications are also included because Veeam is universal, is agnostic to hardware, is agnostic to application, so we could restore any application item. We'll see it together with what we call UAIR, Universal Application Item Restore. So I showed you this way of restore, but my favorite one is here. So under jobs, so here jobs, you have the backups, your jobs like Sure Backup job, replication job, backup copy job, tape job. And then on backups, you have all your media in the same way as here. But you can just, for example, disk is for backup jobs. Disk copy is for backup copy job. For those who doesn't know the backup copy job, it's a job of copying the backups to a different disk just without involving a snapshot. And then we have like the storage snapshot, the cloud based backup, like exported in the cloud, and tape, object storage, and external repository. So let's begin with the backup. So with the backup here, what we can see is that here's the destination repository. What kind of repository? Here's the day. So for example, I will go for the instant recovery feature. So I just go to the job. This is the job name. We also have the way here to search for a specific VM. For example, let's check. We don't have an exchange. So you could just check for any VM you want to backup SP2. Okay, so with SP2, so we can search it, then we right click it and we have all the options that we saw together. So let's start with the instant VM recovery. Instant VM recovery, so first thing here is to select the machine specifically. So either if you want to restore this machine, you have the option also to add different other machines. This is a new feature for V10 which allow you to restore multiple VMs at the same time. So let us try to add the web server also. Let's do next. Then you have the option to choose where do you want to restore. So the first one is restore to the original location. It's definitely written that quick initiative to restore. So it will be erased the machine if it's present. I mean, if you do this while the production machine is on, it will delete it. It will override it. So for our test purpose, we do not want to override the machine. We will just restore to another location because Veeam could also restore to any other cluster if it's added to Veeam as a managed cluster or standalone host also. Next, here we choose our hosts, 63 demo, we choose our resource pool. Everything is okay. Next, here we could just customize the machines, like let's say I would prefer to do it manually. IR, instant recovery. We just could change the BIOS UUID also. Let's keep it the same. I'll also change the name of this one as it exists already. It's underscore instant recovery. Okay. Then we could choose a VM folder, of course. So let's keep it the same. Next. Here we could redirect our writes because when we will do the instant recovery, of course, we do not want to impact our backup file. So It needs to be read only. So every change we will do, we need also to take it in consideration and not to lose it while we are copying the disk. So we will just put it on some specific folder in Veeam server while we install it. This is by default, but if you think that you will keep the machine for a long time, that you will have a bigger amount of data consumed, like or created, then you can choose to redirect these like these writes to specific storage data store connected to this XI. We'll not do this because it will be fast. Next, then we have the secure scan machine, like the scan antivirus scan for the machine before implementing it to the production. So what we will do here, we will mount our backup file to the Veeam server or to the mount server. Then we will list all the file. All of this is without agent. All the restore option are without agent, of course. And then we will perform an antivirus scan, which is the antivirus which is installed on the Veeam server, and we will be able to check if the files are okay or not to be implemented in production, because we could also do some situation we have for example an antivirus which is not up to date. When we did the backup, it didn't detect the virus which is present in the infrastructure, but then maybe we upgraded it, we took another antivirus more efficient, and then when we do it, we are able to detect it and not to impact our production. So you have two options: to abort or to continue, and maybe not connect the machine. So well, not do it as we think it's safe, but we did. So then to finalize, we have the option to connect the machine to the network or to power it on, or both. I will not connect it as it is existing also. It will create a network conflict. I'll just port it on and finish. Okay, so while it's restoring, let's switch to see the other option. So second thing, second thing, we say that we have the restore entire machine. It's the same exactly, just here we can restore it to the original location, the same as different location or stage restore, which is just like on the data lab, just to restore it on an isolated network where we can just restore it there without connecting at all to the network. Then we could access this machine, and we could modify some database file. We can delete some user with the GDPR before implementing it to be able to be consistent with the GDPR. Then it's the same flow. We choose the network, we map it, we choose the data store, and we put the machine. So let's go back to our instant recovery. Here we have the first mounted machine, the second mounted machine, and we can see them here. Demo. SP2. So here are our machines. So I made it like this is the demo lab, and here are machines. They are ready. We can start the console, and here it is. So then it took like, let's say 2 minutes maybe, and you can just also start to see the statistics here in the running sessions. So what it did, it just presented the disk as NFS, it mounted it to the host, then it registered the VMX file, and then it's poured on and ready to be used. Then just either migrated to production, just to the data store. So we finalize all this restore, or we do stop publishing. We can also open the console here if you have the credentials. So I will just stop publishing, not to consume resources. And it's done. So this is the instant VM recovery for a full VM. We also spoke about the instant recovery disk. So it's the same process. So we choose here the restore point is an incremental full. We have the date here, the disk here. So here we have different kind of disk. Next. Then we need to choose our volume. Of course, if it's restored to the same disk, the same applies. Then we can do the scan, of course, and we finalize it as the same way. It will be just connected to the machine directly while it's working. So now we spoke about the different ways of doing instant recovery, like what is new in instant recovery to keep in mind. So instant recovery is a very old feature, like from Veeam. And then what we did in V10 is that we allowed to restore multiple VMs at the same time. We can do it as a disaster recovery plan. And we can also restore a specific volume, not all the machine. Then we have the new feature, which is restore the entire VM to AHV. For those who are using AHV Nutanix, now it's possible to do a full restore directly from Veeam console, not need to go to the proxy. We have virtual disk restore, like traditional one, as parallel for instant recovery and entire VM restore. We have restore VM files. Let's just see how it looks like. The same way, we choose the restore point. Then we choose the different files. It could be disk, it could be a descriptor disk, it could be NVRAM or VMX file, just as simple as it is. And then we could just go more deep and we get to the in guest OS. So for the guest OS, we have two types. We have Microsoft Windows, like all the OS. We have the Linux and other. We have a list of distribution. Novell also is supported. So here, the same way we choose the point, like the date. Next is to click, and what we'll do is that we will automatically mount the backup file in this folder. This folder is a 0 kilobyte folder, just a virtual mounter, and then we will just access our machine, which is it's not yet. SP2 up. So the Veeam, as it is a Windows server, it could be only Windows server. It's able to read the file system of this Windows machine. So we would just explore it here. Just you have all the files, the folders. You can do restore. So if you restore to the original location, sorry, you can just overwrite it. You can keep it as the previous version. If you're not sure that you want to erase it, or maybe you want to keep the old one, or you can just copy to it. If you choose it like that, you will just copy to the Veeam server itself or to the mount server. If you want to copy to a different machine in the network, you just type the path and you just copy the folder or the file to the specific machine. This is for Windows restore. For the Linux restore, for example, it's not only applicable to Linux, it's also applicable to any other software. The difference here, you will see it together, is that Veeam is not able to read the OS of the Linux distribution or the Novell or the different one. So what we can do is that we choose a point at the same time. Next, then we have this specific window which take us to deploy a helper appliance. What is this helper appliance? This helper appliance is a small appliance that we will deploy on the hypervisor. Here we have the hypervisor, resource pool, network, need to be connected also to the machine, so where we want to restore to be able to copy to it, and then we give it an IP address. If we have the DHCP, we can enable FTP to access this appliance, and we can also enable this for Novell storage services. I hope it will be right connected. So the point is here that we need this appliance to mount on it the backup file to be able to read all this file system, so as Veeam cannot read it. This is a very tiny machine. Maximum, as I remember, is 1 GB of RAM. You can edit it through the XML file in the Veeam instance, but usually it's like 5, 12 RAM, so it's not consuming, and it just starts when the restore start. Yeah, we can see it here. It's right. So this is the appliance. It just start and mount when we do the restore, then it just turns off and disappear. I can even access this machine, as we say, like if you open the console here, you can in general option credentials. Actually, in credentials here you have the helper appliance. Here by default we have a specific, let's say, specific password, but you can just change the password, so you could access this machine, and you could also access it through FTP if for example it's much more easy for you to take the files. So maybe sometimes it's faster to take them through FTP rather than to start the Explorer. So it applies in the same way also. You can restore it, you can copy it. So unfortunately this one is almost empty, but the principle is the same. We mount the okay, this is the appliance, we need the password, we just mount it here. Now I will just close this and it should disappear. It will disappear. Yeah, it turns off and it disappeared. Okay, so now we saw the files, the full. Speaking about full, we have also full restore to public cloud, as we say for Amazon and and Azure. For example, let's choose to restore to Azure, for example, this machine. What are the possibilities? So first thing is to choose your account, EMEA here, then the location. Let me choose North Europe. North Europe is here. Then you can use a proxy. If you have deployed a proxy there, you can use the Azure proxy. It will improve the performance, of course, because it will right there. Then you just need to choose what proxy you just deployed there. Next, this is indicating that you are potential data sovereignty violation. So it means that my backup and the restore, like the backup region and the restore region, they are different, but I still accept it. Then what is good, actually, what we will do is we will create another machine, actually another instance on Azure AWS. So what we can do here, we can change it. We can specify what kind of instance we want, because we know that it's consuming resources. The bills depends on the type of instance, so we just don't want to give much more resources than we need, so the bill will be more accurate. Okay, managed. Okay, should be fine. Storage account. Then we could rename the machine, like new. Okay, no, it doesn't like it. New. Then we choose our resource group. Next. Okay, resource group. We connect it to the specific network if you want. We need. So we need to connect it to the subnet. Okay, Filipov. Next. And then we can also scan at the same way the reason why we did it and ready to restore. I'll not do it, but just next, and then you finalize it here. This is also applicable in AWS in the same way also. It's just very fast restoring to without having to convert the disk and so on and so on. Now we have the last part, which is the explorers. Like we get the good thing for the end. But before that, like I will just highlight this. So here you see like VMware backup jobs. Here we have Windows backup jobs. So these are like the agent, the Windows agent, for example, for this. But let's just see what kind of restore we can do with this. With this, we can do instant recovery. Yeah, it's a physical machine. Maybe it's a physical. The agent is not restricted to physical machine, but this is a physical machine. where we install the agent, and we are able to instant recover it to Hyper-V or VMware, like to restore the physical machine, to convert it into virtual, and to implement it directly from the backup file to the Hyper-V host or to the VMware in the same way. Like, let's see it together. Here you can choose different machines. It's exactly the same thing we did before. Let's choose a host, like DR E63. Let's call it instant recovery. You're not connected. Next. Scan will not scan it. Next. Finish. Okay. We can also do file restore, as we saw. We can also do volume restore, instant recovery or not, and we can do export. So we can do a P2V, like next. So we choose the volumes we want to convert. Next, and we can choose what format we want. We put the path, and we could just convert it to VMDK or VHD disk. We can also mount. I didn't put the path. Okay, maybe we didn't see. Next, and we could just also scan it. That's what I wanted to show. Then to get back to physical restore, we could also restore it to public cloud, restore to HV host, or we can do also application which is shared between virtual and physical. But before that, we can also do for physical, we can do bare metal restore. So the bare metal restore is like for Veeam is to create an ISO file with the system and the specific software that allow us to recover the system and allow us to import pilots like drivers to be able to recover the system, or if it's not recovered, to install the new system, or to be able to install the driver, so we could connect to Veeam repository to be able to restore the different volumes to their place. So this file you can generate it after the first backup from any backup chain full. Then you export this ISO. It's usually 300, 400 megabytes for Windows. It's tiny, and for different distribution, you can just find them in Veeam Linux distribution in Veeam portal. Okay, so this is what what we can do with the physical machine. It's not that different. It gives almost the same options, maybe more, like I would say with the instant recovery and the P2V. But what they share is like the explorers that we saw. So the explorer, they're very easy. So you choose the Exchange server, for example, here. Next, finish. And as the same way as we restore the files, we'll now restore the database. So we access the file. Then what we do, actually, we do a file level restore. Then through this file level restore, we go to the EDB file and we access it. So we are able to read it. So through it, we can read all the users. Like we can access the emails, everything. We can also compare them with what is existing in the Exchange server. We need to have connection. Okay, so while it's doing this, our physical machine is restored. Also, we can see it here. Is DR. This is production. No, instant recovery Exchange demo lab. If it's this one, it is. So physical 2 minutes on production. Stop publishing. Okay, so it's comparing actually what is inside the database, which is here, and what's inside the other database. So then we'll let it work a bit, and we'll just show the other one, like the two other ones, like for example the Active Directory. It's very easy, very fast. Like nope. Restore item, and you can see here that, like for example, if I do this here, I don't have any application item restore. So, and here I have Exchange. no, here didn't activate the application or image. Here we have Exchange, and here we have Active Directory. So the point is that here, when in the backup job of Veeam you enable the application aware processing, Veeam will automatically detect this 5 application based on the VSS, Microsoft VSS writers. So then it just back up the VM in a consistent way, and it offers you these explorers to be able to restore. Next, finish. Failed to make. Here it failed because we cannot connect to the Exchange production server, so we don't have a connection to be able to compare. But the point is that we could just connect it now. I don't have the credential, unfortunately, and then compare. Otherwise, sorry, you can just restore to the same one or to a different mailbox you can use here. And you can export it PST, you can export it as message, and so on. Last explorer we'll check is we have two database, Oracle and SQL. It's the same one, so we'll show it for SQL. This is for Active Directory. You can see objects the same way. Let's say computers. We can restore any object instead of restoring the full database. This is very efficient. 90% I would say of restore their objects or files, they're not full. Like most of the time, like most of you, maybe they never did a full VM restore. Then here we choose the point. Next. Yeah, I just want to show you something interesting, which is when you do a backup file of SQL or Oracle, Veeam allows you to do in parallel a log backup. So with this log backup, they are tiny, first of all. They are fast processing, so we could do the backup each 15 minutes, for example. What is the advantage here? Oops. So if I do a normal backup without log backup, we will be able to restore my machine. For example, if I do it twice a day, I will just have 12 days of RPO. But if I choose the other way, I will be able to cross, like to slide here and to go on time to have like 15 minutes RPO instead of 12 hours. And this is not storage consuming because it's only log backups, log database. This is for SQL. And just last thing I would show. So for files, this is a small trick. So for files, we could restore Windows files. For Linux or some specific distribution, we have the Linux other OS appliance. But for anything else that which is not here, for example, which is not listed, what you can do as workaround, or sometimes we have some issue to start it. So what we can do is we can do an instant recovery of this machine to the production, and then we go to the vSphere and we attach, like we go to the production machine where we want to restore a specific file, and then we add the disk. We add the disk as we add an existing disk of the instant recovery machine, so we could just copy it simply from this disk to the other one. This is a workaround from our support. In case it doesn't work, or in case your OS is not compatible with this specific, for example, you have an old distribution, or you have a Mac, or you have your own OS, you could also still restore. Okay, I remember there was something else also. We have what we call the Sure Backup job. So the Sure Backup job actually allow us to restore or to check machines to verify the consistency of the backups of different machine automatically. So, but in our subject here to discuss about replication, about restore, we could use it for restoring all the type of objects, because we saw that with Explore we have only 5 application covered, but with UAir, which is based on Sure Backup, you can, for example, choose the machine you want to restore. For example, I want to restore my Exchange server, but for that I need the Active Directory to access it and to highlight my object. So I will just delete the SQL, or maybe let it here. Okay. Then I will just configure what you call a virtual lab. Which is the virtual lab? It's a small machine It's like the helper appliance. It will allow us to connect the machine which will be launched on the private, on the isolated network. So here we will just create two networks. So we will first of all choose where we'll put this machine. Then we will redirect our writes, and the same way our instant recovery, because it's also based on vPower NFS as instant recovery. Then we will choose our proxy appliance, like we will give it a production IP, like connected to the production. Then for each production IP, for each production network on the machine we want to test, we need to create an isolated parallel network. So we could just restore it there with the same configuration without impacting any production. And then when we'll do that, if you want to restore our MySQL machine, for example, if I have a MySQL database, I don't have Explorer for it, so what will I do? I would start my Sure Backup job. It includes the MySQL machine, and it will allow me to connect to it because it will be mounted here. Let me just see. Okay, so it will be also mounted here. It will be available as Sure Backup. Just we need to production virtual lab. Yes, so this one is another helper appliance. So now we can see that our machine, they are connecting. Also that they are connected to a specific it's a specific switch which is created for the restore. It's like isolated, it's not connected to any physical network, and then we could just access this machine directly and copy what we need to the machine, because last thing is that this helper will be doing the job of bridge between the production and the isolated network. Okay, so it's starting, it's mounting the machine one after one, and then it will just be able to restore and to mount all the machines. Thank you. I will just show you how we got back to the slides. Just a second. Okay. So here are some resources available, like very useful resources, like Veeam resource library. You will find a lot of documents, white papers, webinars like this one, which is registered in different language: French, Spanish, German, English. You can choose your own product, what you want to find. Everything we do, we record there. You have the licensing policy for those who want to understand what they could do with the license, how you can upgrade from maybe perpetual to instance, what is the advantage. You can download Veeam products through this link. The free tools of Veeam also. You have the Veeam community forum where you can find all the discussion about any topic, about any new update or so on. And you can also register for other live demos which will be coming soon. And mainly you have the veeam.com, the Veeam portal, where you can just manage your licensing, create tickets, and download your products and have a full view of it. Thanks everyone. Now we will just switch and see if we have some questions. Okay, what is stage restore? Stage restore is the fact is exactly what we did as Sure Backup. So we will just restore the machine on an isolated network. Then we can just manage it. We can access the machine. We can edit its content. We can delete some, for example, some user from a database to be consistent with GDPR. So this is one of it. What is the difference between disk backup and disk copy? So the disk backup is the backup job where it involves to create a snapshot on the machine, because Veeam is not using agents. So we create a snapshot on the machine, on the disk, then we copy the disk. This is how we do backups. But for backup copy or disk copy, this is made through what we call a Veeam backup copy job. And the backup copy job enable you just to copy the backup file which is created by the backup job the source one to another disk. So it doesn't involve any snapshot, anything. You just copy the disk, copy the file which is already created. Is there any way to restore SQL reports and database separately in different per point in time? SQL report. If you mean logs, yes. In this case, you can, for example, restore the MDF file, like with file restore, and then you can restore the LDF file from another restore point. But I'm not a SQL admin or expert. I don't know if it will be consistent if you will mount them on each other, because you need a chain for the log. So I hope I answered the question. I mean, if there is another question, we had only 3 questions that I answered. Okay, so I don't see any question, but we'll have different session also with me or with our different engineers. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy your day. Bye bye.